Moonlit strangers. The bridge was different tonight, or maybe it was Aria. The city glimmered as it always did, towers lit like lanterns in the sky, the river painted in soft silver, the breeze carrying whispers of something unspoken. Yet her footsteps felt lighter, her heart quicker, as if some invisible pull guided her back to this place. Why am I here again? She told herself it was the quiet she was chasing, the music in her ears, the stillness the bridge always gave her. But beneath those reasons lived a hope, a fragile, impossible hope. Her eyes searched before her mind admitted it. And there he was, the boy from the night before, leaning against the railing in the same quiet way, like a painting the city kept only for itself. His figure was wrapped in moonlight, his gaze on the skyline, steady and calm. Her chest loosened. She hadn't imagined it. He was real. For a moment she hesitated, torn between slipping by unnoticed or letting fate tug her closer. But her steps slowed anyway, betraying her thoughts. He noticed. Ethan turned his head slightly, and their eyes brushed once more. Not colliding, not rushing, just brushing, like two threads softly weaving. And this time he smiled. Not the kind of smile that shouts or demands, but the soft kind. The kind that feels like morning sunlight finding its way through curtains. Aria's breath caught. She pulled one earbud out, the night suddenly too still to ignore. Her voice came quiet, hesitant, like testing fragile glass. Do you always stand here at night? For a second, his brows lifted in mild surprise, then he chuckled gently. The sound was low, warm, carrying no weight except ease. Maybe, he said, his tone carrying playful mystery. Or maybe I was just waiting for someone to ask me that. Her heart skipped, a faint flutter echoing in her chest. His words weren't heavy, weren't forward. They were light, teasing, yet soft enough to settle under her skin. She tilted her head, courage flickering like a candle. And did you find what you were waiting for? Silence stretched, not awkward, but thoughtful. His gaze turned fully to her then, not hurried, not fleeting, but steady, as if he wanted to memorize the way she stood there, with moonlight in her hair. I think I just did. Her chest tightened. She wasn't sure if it was fear or wonder, perhaps both. For a while they stood like that, two souls sharing a bridge, sharing a silence that was anything but empty. The river below hummed. The city lights blinked. The moon seemed to lean closer. And Aria, she felt her walls bend, the ones she had built carefully, brick by brick, against loneliness. It's strange, she murmured, almost more to herself than him. The city feels different at night, like it's softer somehow. Ethan nodded slowly. his eyes returning to the skyline. Maybe because the world finally gets quiet enough to listen. His words lingered in the air, weightless yet heavy, making her blink in surprise. She hadn't expected depth from a stranger. She hadn't expected her heart to lean in. A small smile found her lips, shy but genuine. That's beautiful. Soft smile in his voice. Or maybe it's just the company, he added gently. Her cheeks warmed. She looked down quickly, pretending to adjust her headphone wire, but her smile betrayed her. The night didn't need more. The small exchange, the soft laughter, the silences between their words, they carried more meaning than conversations she had shared with people she'd known for years. And as she finally walked on, leaving him at the railing, Arya realized something that both frightened and comforted her. This was only the second time she'd seen him, and yet her heart already missed him the moment she stepped away. Behind her, Ethan watched her go, his smile lingering as though he'd found what the restless city had never given him before. Their first words had been simple, but simple things often carry the weight of beginnings. And the night, wrapped in moonlight, whispered again. This was only the start. The night had the same silver glow as before, the same restless hum of a city that never truly slept. Yet to Arya, everything felt different. Her footsteps echoed lightly across the stone pavement of the bridge, but beneath the rhythm of her shoes, there was another sound, the quickening beat of her own heart. She told herself she had come back simply because she liked the stillness, the way the moon softened the edges of the city. But deep down, she knew there was another reason. Would he be here again? Or had last night been nothing more than a dream the city had lent her for a moment? The question answered itself before she was ready. He was there, leaning against the same railing, his posture quiet, unhurried. The moonlight draped him in silver, turning his outline into something almost unreal. His gaze rested once more on the skyline, like a man searching for meaning in the endless lights scattered across the horizon. Arya stopped mid-step. For an instant she simply stared, her breath catching as though the air had thickened around her. He hadn't just been a fleeting figure after all. He was real. He was here. She thought about walking past quickly, pretending she hadn't noticed. But her feet slowed, drawn by something she couldn't name. And then, as though sensing her presence, Ethan turned his head. Their eyes met again. Not a long stare, not a collision of glances, but something gentler, like two melodies brushing against each other in the quiet of the night. And then he smiled. It wasn't bold, it wasn't forced. It was the kind of smile that carried warmth without asking for anything in return. Her heart stumbled. She pulled out one earbud, the music fading into silence. Her voice came out hesitant. fragile, yet carried by the courage that smile had sparked. Do you always stand here at night? For a heartbeat, he looked almost surprised. Then he let out a quiet chuckle, low, easy, like the ripple of water against stone. Maybe, he said, his tone playful yet gentle. Or maybe I was just waiting for someone to ask me that. Aria blinked, her lips curving in spite of herself. His answer slipped under her guard with disarming ease. She tilted her head, testing him, her voice carrying a shy challenge. And did you find what you were waiting for? The night seemed to still, as though even the city leaned in to hear his reply. Ethan's gaze settled fully on her, steady, thoughtful, unhurried. He looked at her in a way that made her feel as though she were not just another face in the crowd, but the only one. Soft breathe, I think. I just did. Her breath caught, her chest tightening with a mix of wonder and fear. She turned her eyes away, pretending to study the river below, though her cheeks warmed under the cool night air. For a moment, neither of them spoke. But it wasn't the silence of strangers. It was the kind of silence that felt full of unspoken thoughts, of unshed smiles, of hearts adjusting to something new. Aria! Her words spilling before she could catch them. It's strange. The city feels different at night. Like it's softer somehow. Like it finally breathes slower. Ethan's eyes flickered toward her, and for a moment he seemed to weigh her words carefully. Then, with a small nod, his voice came low, calm. Maybe it's because the world finally gets quiet enough to listen. His reply slipped into her like poetry. She turned to him, caught off guard, searching his face as though the words themselves had changed him. That's beautiful. Or maybe, he added lightly, it's just the company. Her eyes widened, her lips parting in surprise, but the warmth in his tone made her cheeks flush. She looked away quickly, biting back the smile tugging at her mouth. The wires of her headphones twisted nervously in her fingers, though inside her chest, her heart swayed gently like a lantern caught in the wind. Neither of them tried to force the moment into more than it was. They just stood there, side by side under a sky painted in silver, sharing something fragile yet real. The breeze carried the faint scent of rain, the river whispered softly below, and the city lights blinked like stars who had come down to listen. Aria didn't know his name. She didn't know where he came from, or why his eyes seemed older than the night itself. But she knew this. For the first time in a long while, her loneliness felt less heavy. When at last her feet urged her forward, she gave him a small nod, a quiet farewell wrapped in hesitation. As she walked on, She felt the ache of leaving. Strange, too soon, as though she was stepping away from something she wasn't meant to lose. At the far end of the bridge, she couldn't resist. She turned. Ethan was still there, leaning against the railing, eyes following her departure. His lips curved again, a faint, secret smile that felt like the beginning of something only the two of them could hear. See. Their first words had been simple, but sometimes simple words are enough to start a story the universe has been waiting to tell. And that night, the moon itself seemed to whisper. This was only the beginning. The city pulsed with its usual rhythm, cars rushing, neon lights glowing, laughter spilling like fragments of 1,000 stories. But for Arya, the rhythm no longer felt ordinary. Something had shifted. A part of her had started listening, waiting, almost aching for something she couldn't name. 3 nights had passed since she last saw him. Since that fleeting conversation under the silver wash of moonlight. The words were simple, yet they lived inside her like a song replaying itself. Do you always stand here at night? His voice, steady, deep, carrying a warmth that lingered. His eyes, quiet, almost unreadable, yet they had left her restless. She told herself it was foolish. He was just a stranger. But each evening, when the city softened into twilight and the first star appeared above the skyline, her feet found the same path again. The bridge, the river, the silence where their stories had briefly touched. What if he isn't there? The thought almost stung, but something inside whispered back. What if he is? And then her breath caught. He was there, leaning casually against the railing, hands in his pockets, his gaze on the shimmering river as though he belonged to the night itself. Ethan. The moonlight outlined his figure, painting him in silver and shadows. And for a moment, Arya thought, he didn't look real at all, as if sensing her presence. His head turned. His eyes met hers instantly, as though he had been waiting. And this time, the smile that touched his lips came quicker, warmer. Her heart stumbled. She almost turned back, suddenly shy. But her steps carried her forward, each one lighter than the last, until she stood beside him again. Back again? His voice held a playful tease, but beneath it lingered something softer, something that sounded a little like relief. Arya mirrored his smile, though her pulse thudded unevenly. Mischievous. Maybe, she said, her tone carrying quiet mischief. Then, lowering her gaze to the river, she added, or maybe I was just waiting for someone to ask me that. Ethan chuckled. Low, genuine, a sound that rippled through her chest like warmth. Touché, he murmured. The silence that followed was heavy, but not in the way that silences usually were. It was the kind that breathed, alive with meaning. The hum of the city seemed to fade, leaving only the murmur of water below and the occasional rustle of night air. Arya found herself closer this time, close enough to see how the moonlight traced along the line of his jaw, close enough to feel the steadiness of his presence beside her. And yet, despite the nearness, she couldn't ignore the flutter of nerves in her chest. "Do you ever wonder?" she said softly, her words hesitant. "How many people we pass by without ever knowing? That maybe one of them could have changed everything." His gaze turned to her, steady and thoughtful. For a moment he didn't answer, as though weighing her words carefully. Then his voice came, low, measured, carrying a truth that made her breath still. "Every day, and sometimes, I wonder if the universe gives us second chances, just so we don't miss the ones that matter." Her chest tightened. She looked away, her eyes on the river's restless glitter, trying to mask the rush of warmth his words stirred. Second chances. The phrase lingered, circling her heart like a gentle tide. Maybe this city isn't as lonely as I thought. Ethan's expression softened, his voice like velvet against the night. Maybe it just needed the right company. Something shifted inside her then. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, like the click of a lock finding its key. They talked for longer this time, about small things, ordinary things. The way the city always seemed half awake, the little stories they imagined behind glowing windows, the strange comfort of silence when shared instead of carried alone. But underneath their words pulsed something unspoken, something neither of them dared to name yet. The night stretched endlessly, like it didn't want to let them go. When Arya finally turned to leave, her steps were slower, reluctant. At the far end of the bridge, she couldn't help herself. She glanced back, and there he was, still leaning against the railing, still watching her, that soft, unguarded smile on his lips. It felt like a promise. For the first time in years, Arya's heart whispered something she had almost forgotten how to believe in: hope. The city felt different tonight. The air was cooler, the streets quieter, and the silver moon hung low, as though it was watching closely over everything beneath it. Arya walked with purpose, though she kept telling herself she had no reason to hurry. She wasn't going anywhere in particular, not really, but her heart knew. It was guiding her toward the place where shadows met water, where moonlight turned the river into something holy, gently, toward him. And when she reached the bridge, there he was, Ethan. He leaned against the railing, his hands tucked casually in his coat pockets, his head tilted back as though he was listening to the silent hum of the night. The lamps overhead spilled golden halos onto the pavement, but it was the moonlight that claimed him, painting his dark hair with strands of silver, softening the sharpness of his jaw. He looked like someone both real and unreal, as though the city itself had dreamed him up. Arya froze at the end of the bridge. For a moment she just watched him. It was strange how someone she had only met twice before could feel like gravity. How the air itself seemed to shift whenever he was near. Ethan turned his head slightly, as though he could feel her gaze. And when his eyes found hers, a quiet smile tugged at the corners of his lips. Not wide, not deliberate, just enough to let her know he'd been waiting. Back again? His voice was low, threaded with warmth, carrying easily across the empty bridge. Arya's lips curved despite herself. And you? She asked softly, stepping closer. Do you live here or something? Maybe I do. Huck. He straightened, his smile deepening just a fraction. Or maybe I was hoping the city would bring you back. Her steps faltered at that, her chest tightening in a way she hadn't expected. The honesty in his tone, it was dangerous. Beautiful. The kind of thing that could unravel her carefully tied knots. Then I suppose the city kept its promise, whispering. She whispered, finally joining him at the railing. The river below glistened, catching the reflections of the street lamps and the moon, shattering them into trembling shards of light. For a while, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was thick, charged, like the pause before the first note of a song. Arya wrapped her arms loosely around herself, letting the cool night air brush against her skin. She wondered if he could hear her heart, if the stillness between them betrayed just how quickly it raced. You always look like you're carrying something heavy, pensive, Ethan murmured after a while, his eyes still fixed on the water. Like the night is asking you questions you're too tired to answer. His words startled her, not because of what he said, but because of how true they felt. Gently, almost a whisper. And you? She asked, turning her gaze to him. You look like you already know the answers. You just don't say them out loud. For the first time, Ethan's eyes flicked away, as though the truth of her observation had brushed too close. He exhaled, slow and steady, and when he looked back at her, there was a softness there, something she couldn't quite name. You see more than most people, he said. That can be both a gift and a curse. Arya tilted her head, searching his face. The way he said it, it wasn't casual. It came from someplace deeper, like a wound that hadn't fully healed. Before she could ask, a sudden gust of wind swept across the bridge, rustling her hair. Ethan reached out instinctively, brushing a strand away from her face. His fingers lingered just for a moment against her cheek. It was nothing really, barely a touch, but the warmth of it sank into her skin and something in her chest stirred awake. You shouldn't do that, she murmured. And why not? His voice was gentle, curious. Because her words faltered, dissolving in the quiet night. She didn't know how to explain. Because it makes me feel too much. Because it makes me forget how to breathe. Because it feels like I've known you longer than I should. Ethan didn't press her. Instead, he lowered his hand slowly, returning his gaze to the river. And Arya was grateful. She wasn't ready to give shape to the storm inside her just yet. They walked after that, side by side, leaving the bridge behind. The city stretched out before them, wide streets glittering under neon signs, shop windows glowing faintly, cafes still humming with late-night souls. Yet somehow it all felt quieter, as though the world had dimmed itself just for the two of them. Arya's footsteps matched Ethan's unconsciously, her shoulder brushing his now and then. Every accidental touch sent a ripple through her, small but undeniable. "Tell me something," he said suddenly, breaking the silence. She glanced at him. "What?" "Anything. Something no one else knows about you." Arya hesitated. Secrets weren't something she gave away easily. But the way he looked at her, with patience, not demand, made her want to offer him something real. "I used to believe the moon followed me," she confessed softly, almost shyly. "When I was little, I thought it was mine, that no matter where I went, it was watching only me." Ethan's lips curved, not in amusement, but in something gentler. "Maybe it still is." Her heart skipped. She looked away quickly, her cheeks warming. "Your turn," she whispered. "Something no one else knows." He was quiet for a long moment. Too long. She almost thought he wouldn't answer. Then finally he spoke. "I hate silence," he said. "Not the kind we share now. This is different. This is full, but the kind that feels empty. I've lived in it too long." There was a weight in his words, something that pulled at her. Arya slowed her pace, her eyes searching his profile. He didn't look at her, but she could see it, the shadow in his expression, the memory of loneliness. Without thinking, she reached out and brushed her fingers lightly against his hand, just a fleeting touch, almost hesitant. But he noticed. His hand turned, his fingers brushing against hers in return, delicate, as though testing the shape of a fragile truth. The city bustled faintly around them, but in that moment it didn't matter. The silence they shared wasn't empty, it was alive. They ended up on a quiet rooftop cafe, the kind hidden away from the main streets. Only a few tables, most of them empty. The air smelled of coffee and rain, even though the sky had remained clear. They took a corner table where fairy lights dangled like stars caught in glass, and the city stretched beneath them, wide, endless, glowing. Arya wrapped her hands around the warm mug the waiter placed before her. The steam curled upward, catching the light, reminding her of mist rising from the river. Thoughtful. "This doesn't feel real," she admitted softly, her eyes scanning the skyline. "The city, the lights, sitting here with you. It feels like a dream I'm going to wake from." Ethan studied her quietly. His gaze was steady, unhurried, as though memorizing the shape of her words, the cadence of her voice. "Then don't wake up," he said simply. Her breath caught. He said it so easily, so plainly, as though it were the simplest thing in the world. She shook her head, trying to hide the smile tugging at her lips. "You make it sound so easy." Relaxed. "Maybe it is." He leaned back in his chair, his eyes still fixed on hers. "Maybe all we ever do is complicate the things that were meant to be simple." The words lingered between them, thick with meaning. Aria lowered her gaze to her mug, tracing the rim with her finger. She didn't want to ask what he meant. She wasn't sure she was ready for the answer. But the truth was, she already felt it, the simplicity of this moment, the undeniable pull between them, the way her chest felt lighter just sitting across from him. "Ethan?" she said at last, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why does it feel like we've known each other longer than a few nights?" His eyes softened, and he leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on the table. "Because some connections," he said slowly, "don't measure themselves in time." Aria's heart swelled, her throat tightening. She had no reply, none that would make sense of the ache in her chest, the warmth in her veins. Instead, she looked at him, really looked. The curve of his mouth, the way the light caught in his eyes, the quiet steadiness of his presence. And she realized something. She was afraid. Afraid of how much she wanted to believe him. Afraid of what it would mean if she did. And yet, she couldn't look away. The night deepened around them. The city below hummed like a distant song, fading into the rhythm of their breaths, the quiet laughter they shared, the long silences that didn't need filling. When they finally left the cafe, the streets were nearly empty. The moon hung higher now, brighter, watching. They walked slowly, as though neither wanted the night to end. Their hands brushed again, and this time Ethan didn't hesitate. His fingers slipped gently between hers, threading together like they had always belonged there. Aria's breath trembled, but she didn't pull away. She couldn't. The silence stretched, and it was perfect. Not empty, not heavy, just enough. And as the city fell silent around them, Aria knew this night had changed something. The city had woken, but Aria had not yet returned to it. After that long night on the rooftop, she found herself drifting through the hours, as if the world had shifted, though no one else seemed to notice. The streets bustled, children laughed, Shopkeepers shouted greetings, but none of it reached her the same way, because all she could think of was Ethan. His voice, the way he spoke softly, as though every word mattered. His eyes, carrying galaxies and shadows alike. The way silence with him had felt like music. She pressed a hand to her chest, as though steadying the storm within. It was foolish, perhaps, to feel so much after so little time, but something inside her refused to dismiss it, as if fate had opened a door she hadn't known was there, and she wasn't ready to close it again. That evening, Arya found herself standing once more at the bridge. She hadn't planned it, hadn't told herself she would come, and yet her steps had led her here, as though drawn by an invisible thread. The river shimmered, reflecting the first pale stars. Lanterns on distant boats floated like fireflies, and when she lifted her eyes, her breath caught. He was there, leaning against the railing, waiting, as if he had known she would come. Their gazes collided, and for a moment the whole world stilled. Then Ethan smiled, a soft, quiet smile that seemed to unravel the knots in her heart. "You're here," he whispered. Arya's lips curved faintly. "So are you." Neither asked why. Neither needed to. They walked without direction, their steps unhurried. The city at night belonged to them again, its lights painting soft gold across their path. "Tell me," Ethan said after a while, his tone thoughtful, "what do you fear the most?" Arya blinked, surprised. "That's a heavy question." He smiled faintly. The night allows heavy questions. She thought for a moment, her eyes drifting to the moon above. I fear being invisible, not unseen, but unnoticed. As if I could vanish and the world wouldn't care." Ethan's expression softened. His voice dropped lower, tender. "Then I hope you know. Tonight, the world noticed you. I noticed you." Her chest ached at the sincerity in his tone. "And you?" she asked, needing to know. "What do you fear?" He hesitated. His jaw tightened, his gaze lowering to the cobblestones. "Losing something before I've even had the chance to hold it." Arya's breath caught. For a moment, neither spoke, but the silence pulsed, alive with what neither dared to confess. They stopped at a small cafe, closed for the night, but with chairs left scattered outside as though waiting for them. They sat across from each other, the night air cool around them, the faint hum of the river drifting through the quiet. Arya traced circles on the table with her finger. "It's strange," she whispered. "I don't usually open up to people, but with you, Ethan leaned forward slightly, his eyes steady on hers. With me? Her voice trembled. It feels safe. He exhaled slowly, as though the weight of her words pressed into him. His hand lifted slightly, then stilled halfway, before he let it rest back on the table. That means more than you know. Their eyes held, a current flowing between them. Neither looked away. Hours slipped by unnoticed. They spoke of small things and deep things, of fragments of their pasts, of the heaviness they carried, of the strange beauty of loneliness when it was finally shared. At one point, Arya laughed softly, her head tilting back. Ethan watched her, his expression open, unguarded, filled with something he could not name. And in that moment, he realized how much she had already become to him. Not a stranger, not just a fleeting presence in the night, but something that made the air feel lighter, the silence feel meaningful, the city feel alive again. He swallowed hard, afraid of how much that realization frightened him. The night grew deeper. They found themselves wandering to the hill overlooking the city. The grass whispered beneath their steps, the air cooler here, the stars brighter. They sat side by side, the city lights sprawling below them like constellations born from the earth. Arya hugged her knees, her eyes shimmering. Do you ever wonder why people meet? Why strangers cross paths when they could have walked past each other and never known? Ethan's voice was quiet, heavy with thought. Because some people aren't meant to stay strangers. Her heart clenched, and she turned her face away to hide the tears threatening her eyes. But Ethan noticed. He always noticed. Arya. She shook her head quickly, laughing through the ache in her chest. I don't know why I'm crying. He hesitated, then reached out. This time, he didn't stop himself. His fingers brushed against hers, tentative, trembling, and when she didn't pull away, when her hand curled into his, holding tightly, his chest ached with relief. They sat like that for what felt like forever. No words, only hands entwined, hearts beating louder than the silence. At last Arya whispered, "What happens when morning comes?" Ethan's grip tightened slightly, his eyes fixed on the horizon. Then we carry the night with us. She closed her eyes, letting the words sink deep, as though she might keep them forever. The city stretched infinite below, the stars endless above, and in that fragile space between, two souls, no longer strangers, trembling with a connection that neither had sought, yet both could no longer deny. And in that moment, under the weight of stars and silence, It felt less like the world had given them a night, and more like it had given them the beginning of something neither dared yet to name. The rooftop was quiet, bathed in a silver glow that seemed borrowed from the moon itself. The ocean stretched endlessly, its waves whispering lullabies only the night could hear. Aria stood by the railing, her dress swaying softly with the breeze, as though even the wind had slowed just to listen to her heart. Ethan joined her, his footsteps careful, hesitant, as if he was afraid that one wrong sound might shatter the fragile spell between them. "It feels like the world stops up here," Aria murmured, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Or maybe," Ethan answered, his voice low, "it only stops when I'm with you." A silence followed, not the heavy kind, but the delicate silence that trembles with things unsaid. The city below pulsed with distant lights, yet up here it felt as though time had forgotten them. Aria turned slightly, her gaze meeting his. Her chest tightened at the honesty in his eyes, the way his quiet presence felt like home. "Do you ever think," she asked, "that maybe some people aren't meant to find each other, and yet somehow they do?" Ethan's throat tightened. He swallowed slowly, his voice unsteady when it came. "I've thought of many things, but not this. Not until you." The words settled between them, fragile and luminous, like fireflies drifting in the dark. They stood close now, the kind of closeness that didn't need touch to be felt. Their breaths mingled in the cool night air, carrying pieces of confessions neither dared to fully voice. "I'm scared, Ethan." Aria's eyes glistened, though no tears fell. "Because what if we are only borrowed time?" Ethan's heart clenched. He stepped closer, his hand brushing against the railing near hers. He didn't touch her, not yet, but the distance between them shrank to almost nothing. "Maybe we are borrowed time," he whispered, his voice low and raw. "But Aria, even if it's just a chapter, I would rather have this with you than a lifetime of emptiness." Her breath caught. For a moment, the night itself seemed to hold still, waiting, listening. The city lights flickered like stars fallen to earth. Far below, life continued. Cars moved. Laughter echoed faintly from late-night cafes. But up here, on this quiet rooftop, it felt like they were the only two souls in the world. Aria leaned on the railing, her hair catching the moonlight like strands of silver. "You make it sound easy. Choosing something that might break us." Ethan's lips curved, but his eyes stayed soft, almost sorrowful. "It isn't easy. It's terrifying. But sometimes, the things that scare us the most are the ones worth holding on to." Her gaze softened, her heart torn between fear and the undeniable pull of him. The night air wrapped around them, carrying a bittersweet tenderness, like the ache of a song that stays long after it ends. Ethan, if I let myself fall, promise me you won't disappear when morning comes. He reached out then, finally, his fingers brushing hers. Gentle, trembling, reverent. I promise. And though it was only a whisper, it felt louder than the city below, stronger than the tides, brighter than the moon itself. That night, they didn't need grand declarations or perfect endings. They only needed the fragile truth that even in a fleeting moment, love could be eternal. Under the moonlit sky, with the world holding its breath, two strangers stopped being strangers. They became a story, one that lived not in forever, but in the kind of night that eternity envies. The night had stretched itself thin, fragile as silk, and now dawn lingered just beyond the horizon, waiting. The sky was still deep and blue, but in its depths there was already the faintest hint of light, like a secret that could not be hidden much longer. Arya leaned on the railing, her hands curled against the cool metal, her heart unsteady. She could feel it, this fleeting moment slipping from her grasp like sand between fingers. Ethan stood beside her, not touching, not daring to break the fragile stillness, but his presence was enough. It had always been enough. It's almost morning, she whispered, her voice soft, trembling like the air itself feared the dawn. I know, Ethan replied, his gaze fixed on the fading stars. I wish it wasn't. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy, threaded with everything they hadn't said, with the ache of wanting and the fear of losing. The city below had begun to stir. Somewhere, a siren wailed faintly, carried on the breeze. A bakery lit its ovens, and the smell of bread floated up through the awakening streets. But up here, the rooftops still clung to night, as if reluctant to let it go. Arya closed her eyes, breathing in the cool air, feeling the sharp ache of beauty that always came just before endings. Ethan, what happens when the sun rises? His chest tightened. He looked at her, the outline of her face etched in moonlight, her lashes lowered, her lips parted just enough for him to hear the unspoken fear in her question. While when the sun rises, nothing changes. Not for me. I'll still be here, with you. But even as he said it, something in his chest ached, because they both knew life had a cruel way of interrupting promises whispered under the moon. Arya opened her eyes, turning to him fully now. The silver glow lit her face, softening her, making her seem both unreal and entirely too real at once. You always say the right thing, do you know that? Ethan's lips curved faintly. Maybe I only find the words because they're for you. Her breath caught, her chest swelled, and for a moment she wanted to close the distance, to let this fragile magic turn into something more solid, But fear was always there, lingering like a shadow behind her heartbeat. The first blush of dawn painted the edge of the horizon. Soft pinks and pale gold bleeding into the dark sky. With sadness. The stars are leaving us, Arya said, her voice light but edged with sorrow. No, Ethan murmured, stepping closer. They're just making room for the light. Their eyes met, and in that look there was both the beauty of what they had found and the unbearable weight of what they might lose. Arya's voice dropped, hushed as if she was confessing to the night itself. I don't know if I can hold on to this, Ethan. I don't know if I can be brave enough. He felt the crack in her words like a blade. His hand hovered near hers, aching to close the distance. You don't have to be brave alone. Let me be brave for both of us. She blinked, her lashes wet now, though the tears didn't fall. Her lips curved into a trembling smile. You make it sound so easy. It isn't easy, Ethan said, his voice rough with emotion. But you're worth every hard thing in this world. The city grew brighter, the lights below dimming as day claimed its place. The rooftops seemed smaller now, not the endless universe it had been beneath the stars. Arya turned her gaze to the horizon, watching the sky ignite with morning's fire. It feels like we're standing in a dream, and I don't know how to wake up without losing it. Ethan stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers at last. Their fingers didn't intertwine, not yet, but the touch was enough to make the world stop again. Then don't wake up. Stay in it. Stay with me. Her throat tightened. Her heart screamed, yes, but her fears whispered no. The first rays of sunlight touched her skin, painting her in gold. Ethan stared at her, breath caught in his chest, struck by the way she seemed to belong more to the dawn than to anything else. You're breathtaking. Her cheeks flushed, her lips parting. She laughed softly, though her voice trembled. Don't say that. Don't make this harder. I can't not say it. Not when it's the truth. Not when I may never forgive myself if I don't. Her breath hitched, her heart racing. The tears that had lingered finally broke free, sliding down her cheeks like fragile pearls. Ethan, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. Then don't. Stay. Let's not think about what comes after. Let's just choose this, right now. Her sob caught in her throat, a sound that was half pain, half joy. She looked at him, really looked, and in his eyes she saw not just hope, but the reflection of everything she had been afraid to want. Their hands finally found each other, fingers intertwining, holding as if the world itself would shatter if they let go. The sun rose higher, the city waking fully. The spell of night had broken, but in its place was something stronger, something real. They stood there together, holding on, their hearts beating in fragile unison. And though the dawn carried uncertainty, though the day ahead held shadows they hadn't faced, in that moment they chose each other, because sometimes love wasn't about forever. It was about the courage to stand in the light and still hold on to the night within your heart. And under the first light of morning, two souls. The morning stretched itself into the city, spilling gold across glass towers and narrow streets. But on the rooftop, time felt slower, almost unwilling. Arya still held Ethan's hand, her fingers clinging, like she feared that the moment she let go, the world would take him away. And perhaps that was the truth. Her chest rose and fell unevenly, as if each breath was both a relief and a wound. Do you ever think, maybe we weren't meant to meet like this? Ethan's brow furrowed. His thumb brushed over her trembling hand. Every part of me says the opposite. Every part of me says this was the only way it could have ever happened. She lowered her gaze, her lashes hiding the storm building in her eyes. The sunlight revealed too much, the rawness of her fear, the cracks in her strength. But what if the world doesn't let us keep this? What if the more I hold on, the more it hurts when I lose it? Ethan turned toward her fully now, his voice hushed but fierce. Arya, listen to me. Love isn't about waiting for the world to approve. It's about choosing someone, even when it's impossible, even when it hurts. Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe him, desperately. But the shadows of her past still clung to her like chains. The truth was, Arya wasn't free. Not in the way she pretended to be when they laughed under stars or whispered secrets in the dark. Somewhere, beyond this rooftop, obligations waited, promises she had made to people who would never understand what this moment meant to her. She pressed her hands to her face, her voice breaking. You don't know what I've hidden from you. You don't know how impossible this might be. Ethan's chest ached. He reached for her hands, gently pulling them away so he could see her face again. Ethan, tell me. Let me carry it with you. Don't shut me out. The rooftop spun in her silence. The noise of the waking city rose beneath them. Car horns, voices, the clatter of lives continuing. But here, there was only the weight of her unspoken truth. Finally, her voice escaped, small and sharp as glass. I'm promised to someone else, Ethan. The words shattered him. He felt them like a blade sinking deep. His hand loosened, though not completely. His chest tightened with something between anger and despair. Promised? She nodded, her eyes wet. It's complicated. It's family, expectations, things I can't just walk away from. Ethan staggered back a step, his jaw clenched. The morning light suddenly felt cruel, exposing every fragile truth they had built in the dark. So all of this, what we are, is just temporary to you? Her face crumpled, pain etched in every line. No, Ethan, please, don't say that. This is the only thing that's ever felt real to me. That's why it terrifies me, because the more real it is, the more impossible it becomes. He turned away, running his hand through his hair, his breath sharp. The rooftop felt smaller now, as if the sky itself was pressing down on them. I thought we had time. I thought this could be the beginning of something, not just a stolen dream. Arya took a shaky step toward him, her voice trembling with urgency. It is the beginning. You've changed me, Ethan. You've given me something I didn't think I was allowed to have. I don't want to let you go, even if the world tells me I have to. Her hand touched his arm. He froze, every muscle screaming to both pull away and collapse into her at once. The wind picked up, carrying the last whispers of night across the golden skyline. Ethan's eyes closed, his voice hoarse. So what do we do now, Arya? Do we keep pretending the world will make space for us, or do we wake up and let this die before it destroys us? Her tears fell freely now. She leaned her forehead against his arm, her voice trembling. I don't want to wake up. Not if it means losing you. The admission cracked something inside him. His hand lifted, almost unconsciously, resting on her hair. His heart warred with his mind, love clashing with the truth she had revealed. For a long moment they stood there, caught between dawn and day, love and reality, hope and ruin. And then Ethan pulled back, enough to look at her. His eyes were wet, his voice soft but sharp as glass. If you choose me, Arya, it won't be easy. You'll lose things, you'll break things, but I'll fight for you with everything I am. Her lips parted, trembling. She saw the fire in his eyes, the kind of devotion that could burn the world if she let it. And if I can't be brave enough? Ethan's throat worked. He cupped her face, his touch tender even in his heartbreak. Then I'll love you anyway, even if it kills me. Her sob escaped then, small and shattering, as she pressed her face into his chest. His arms folded around her instinctively, holding her like he was holding the only thing that mattered in the universe. The sun had risen fully now. The stars were gone, the night erased. But in that rooftop embrace, they clung to the last fragments of magic, as if refusing to surrender. And though the world below would demand answers, though obligations and promises lurked like shadows waiting to devour them, for now there was only this: two souls breaking and healing in the same breath, Two strangers who had become more than the world would allow. Two hearts caught between love and impossibility. And as the city roared awake beneath them, Arya and Ethan held each other tighter. Because sometimes the most fragile moments are the ones we fight hardest to keep alive. Her had once been strangers, became each other's dawn. The city carried on as though nothing had happened. Cars lined the streets, voices drifted upward, lives unfolded in their usual rhythm. But on the rooftop, where the sunrise had burned through shadows and laid bare truths too heavy for the heart, everything felt altered. Ethan stood by the edge, hands braced against the cold railing, his back to Arya. His shoulders rose and fell with uneven breaths, as though the weight of her confession had pressed itself into his lungs. He stared at the skyline, but his mind saw nothing but her words. I'm promised to someone else. Behind him, Arya's knees nearly gave way. She lowered herself onto the worn concrete, her arms circling her body as though she needed to hold herself together. Her heart still beat too fast, a frantic rhythm that screamed both guilt and longing. I never wanted to hurt you. The wind carried her voice, fragile as a secret. Ethan's eyes shut, his jaw clenched. Every part of him wanted to turn around, to take her in his arms again and believe that love was stronger than whatever bound her. But another part of him, the part that had tasted disappointment before, kept him frozen. Then why didn't you tell me from the beginning? Her breath hitched. She pressed a hand against her lips, as though to keep herself from breaking apart. Because I was selfish. Because I didn't think I'd fall this deeply. I thought maybe I could keep this part of me hidden and it wouldn't matter. But it does. It matters too much. Silence stretched, heavy, bitter. Ethan turned finally, his eyes red but burning with fire. You can't ask me to love you in shadows, Arya. I won't be a secret. I won't be someone you run to when you want to escape your cage. Her tears fell harder now. She rose shakily to her feet, her voice trembling with desperation. You're not a secret to me. You're everything. Ethan, I don't want this to end. I don't know how to choose between the life I've been chained to and the life I dream of with you. He took a step toward her, close enough to feel her trembling. His hands curled into fists at his sides. Then maybe the question isn't whether you can choose. Maybe it's whether you're brave enough to burn the chains. Her breath caught. His words cut through her like lightning, sparking both fear and hope. Burn the chains? Could she? Did she dare? The rooftop seemed to shrink as the air thickened between them. Arya lifted her eyes, her gaze locking with his. For a moment, the world vanished again. No obligations, no promises, no shadows. Only two hearts, raw and exposed. She lifted a hand to his face, her touch trembling. You make me want to be brave. His breath shook as he leaned into her hand. His voice softened, though pain still lingered. Then be, for us. The day stretched onward, but they stayed on the rooftop, caught in a fragile limbo between decision and despair. Neither could bear to leave, as if stepping off the concrete would mean stepping into the inevitability of reality. When the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in warm hues, Arya finally spoke again, her voice quiet. Will you walk with me? Just anywhere. I don't want this moment to end, even if the world waits below. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. His heart was a battlefield, but it couldn't deny her. They descended together, leaving behind the rooftop that had held their confessions. The city swallowed them quickly, its noise surrounding them like a tide. But even in the chaos, they stayed close, their shoulders brushing, their hands brushing. Like gravity refused to let them drift apart. They walked without direction, through crowded markets and quiet alleys, until they reached the river that wound like silver through the heart of the city. The water shimmered under the fading light, lanterns reflecting off its restless surface. Arya leaned against the railing, her eyes distant. The river carried her thoughts away, scattering them like fragile paper boats. Ethan stood beside her, his silence heavy but not empty. He was waiting for something, for her, for a truth that might change everything. Finally she spoke. When I was little, I used to come here. My father would tell me the river carried wishes, that if I whispered one into the water, it would find its way to the sea and become real. Ethan's eyes softened. What did you wish for? She smiled faintly, bittersweet. Freedom. But wishes don't free you, Ethan. They just remind you how trapped you are. His chest ached. Without thinking, he reached for her hand again. This time, she didn't hesitate. She let their fingers weave together, clinging as though the river might steal her away if she let go. The night deepened around them. The city's lights blinked alive, glittering like constellations fallen to earth. They walked along the water's edge, their shadows trailing together. At one point, Ethan stopped, pulling her gently to face him. His eyes searched hers, raw and steady. Arya, I don't care what promises were made. I don't care what the world expects of you. I just care about this, about us. Tell me it's real. Tell me you feel it too. Her lips trembled, tears glimmering in the glow of the streetlights. It's real. It's the only thing that feels real. But that's what makes it so dangerous. He shook his head, his grip on her hand tightening. Then let it be dangerous. Let it be reckless, because love like this doesn't come twice in a lifetime. Her sob escaped before she could stop it. She threw her arms around him, burying her face in his chest, as if hiding from the world itself. And he held her, his own tears slipping quietly, soaking into her hair. They stayed like that for what felt like eternity, wrapped in a fragile cocoon of defiance. Yet even in their closeness, shadows loomed. Aria's world, the one waiting for her beyond Ethan's arms, was vast and merciless. She couldn't ignore it forever. When they finally pulled apart, her face was streaked with tears, but her voice carried a fragile strength. I don't know how this ends, Ethan, but I know I can't walk away from you now. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He cupped her face, pressing his forehead to hers, their breaths mingling. Then don't. Stay, for as long as we're allowed. And so they walked through the city until dawn crept near again, weaving hours together like stolen threads of eternity. They laughed softly at nothing, whispered dreams they knew might never come true, kissed under streetlights as if the world wasn't watching. It was fragile, it was doomed, it was beautiful. For two souls caught in a love that should never have existed, it was everything. The city slept, yet above it all, the rooftops seemed suspended in a different time, a fragile bubble untouched by the world's demands. The first light of dawn barely brushed the horizon, painting the skyline in soft gold and muted pinks. But for Aria and Ethan, it was not the day that mattered. It was the space between heartbeats, the stolen moments that belonged only to them. Aria stood near the edge, her fingers lightly brushing the railing, trembling despite the warmth of her sweater. Her breath came unevenly, caught between hope and dread. The memory of last night's embrace still clung to her skin, searing, intoxicating. The world outside could wait, but the storm inside her chest could not. Ethan. He stepped closer, his movements careful, reverent. Even in the soft glow of morning, his eyes held the weight of everything unsaid. "I'm here," he murmured, voice low but steady. "I haven't gone anywhere." Her gaze lifted, meeting his. In that look, there was a history of confessions, of laughter shared under the moon, and of a longing that neither time nor circumstance could erase. "They know now,"
she whispered. Her hand rose to cover her mouth, as if shielding herself from the words.
"My father, the man I'm promised to, they know about us."
Ethan's chest tightened. Every beat felt heavier than the last, laden with a mixture of fear and fierce determination. Then we face it, he said, taking her hand gently. Together. She swallowed hard, the air thick with uncertainty. Her mind raced, knowing the consequences of their love could ripple outward, damaging everything and everyone they cared for.
What if I can't protect you from them?
Then I'll protect myself. But I won't leave you. Not now. Not ever.
The rooftops seemed to shrink around them, the air charged with unsaid fears and electric longing. The city below awakened slowly. A car horn, distant footsteps, faint chatter. Yet here there was only the quiet of shared breaths and the trembling of two hearts unwilling to let go. Arya closed her eyes for a moment, pressing her forehead to his chest. The rhythm of his heartbeat pulsed through her, grounding her even as the world threatened to unravel. I don't want to lose this, Ethan. I don't want to lose you. Then don't, he whispered, his lips brushing her hair, his voice firm and trembling at once. Hold on to me. Let's not think about the world. Let it wait. Tears slid down her cheeks, hot and relentless. She clung to him, every ounce of fear and desire entwined in that embrace. The morning light caught the tears like tiny crystals, reflecting the vulnerability that neither had ever allowed anyone to see. Hours passed unnoticed. They spoke in whispers, half words. Laughter that trembled and broke with the weight of reality. Each confession was a thread weaving them closer, binding them in something neither of them fully understood, but could not deny. Do you think we're foolish? Arya asked, voice muffled against his chest. Maybe, he said, tracing circles on her back with his fingers, but the kind of foolish that makes the world worth existing. Her lips curved in a fragile smile. Even if the world comes crashing down. He kissed the top of her head, a promise and a warning all at once. Especially then. By mid-morning, the first messages came. Her father, terse and demanding, his words carved into the text like ice. Ethan read them quietly, the edges of his hands tight around his phone. He did not respond. Instead, he turned to Arya. Whatever happens, we face it. Together. She nodded, her lips trembling, her eyes wet. A bittersweet resolve settled over her, fragile and yet unbreakable. I never imagined love could feel like this. So beautiful, and yet so dangerous. Because it is worth it, he said. The hours blurred as they planned, whispered and clung. The city moved around them, oblivious to the two souls who dared to carve a world of their own amid the chaos. Even as they walked down the quiet streets together, hand in hand, the looming threats of family, promises and society's expectations cast long shadows. They found themselves at the river again, where the water caught the sunlight and shimmered like molten silver. Arya leaned against the railing, Ethan beside her, their fingers intertwined. "Do you remember the first time we came here?" she asked, voice trembling. "How could I forget? You were terrified of falling in." She chuckled softly, tears catching in her eyes. "And you held my hand. You told me it would be okay. That night, I believed you. And I still am, Arya. I still will be." The current of the river mirrored the ache in their hearts, restless, endless, carrying their fears and hopes alike. Night fell again, heavy and solemn, and with it came the realization that the world would not remain patient. A shadowed figure appeared at the far edge of the garden. Ethan tensed immediately, protective instinct blazing. "Stay behind me." Arya nodded, clutching his arm. Fear and longing mingled, sharpening their connection in a way words never could. The figure approached, formal, imposing. Arya's chest tightened. It was him, the man she was promised to, the one who represented everything she had tried to obey, everything she had tried to fear. "Ethan," she whispered. He didn't answer, his eyes locked on the man. Warning and defiance coiled like steel in his stance. "You've been warned," the man said. Voice sharp, low, commanding. "Step away from her. Now." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She's not yours. She's never been yours. Leave us alone." Arya's heart pounded, her body shaking as if the tension could tear her apart. Yet in Ethan's presence, fear turned into courage, and courage into something almost sacred. Words weren't enough. The standoff stretched, every second loaded with possibility. Anger, heartbreak, desire, and love. The city's night seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable. And for once, neither Arya nor Ethan flinched. "I won't let go," Ethan said to her, almost inaudible, yet carrying a power that made the world pause. "Then I'll stand with you," she whispered back, her tears and determination mingling. The moment felt infinite, the kind of moment where the heart could either break or forge something stronger than fear itself. Rain began to fall softly, as though the heavens themselves mourned and celebrated all at once. The droplets slid down faces and clothes, mingling with tears, soaking the night in raw emotion. Ethan reached for Arya, pulling her into a protective embrace. "No one can touch you, not while I breathe." She pressed her forehead to his chest, listening to his heartbeat, steady and true. "I've never felt so alive, or so terrified." "Then hold on. We'll face the storm together." And though danger and uncertainty loomed larger than ever, there on the riverbank, under the rain and the trembling night, two souls refused to be separated. They became their own force, fragile yet unbreakable, scared yet unyielding, caught between love and the consequences the world would never forgive. The night wrapped the city in its velvet arms, a quiet hush that felt almost sacred. Streetlights flickered softly, reflecting off wet pavements where the last rain had left its silver trails. Yet, above the streets, in a secluded garden hidden behind wrought iron gates, two hearts raced against time and fate itself. Aria's fingers trembled as she clutched the railing, her eyes darting to every shadow. The memory of last night, the rain, the river, Ethan's arms around her, still burned against her skin. But the looming threat of her father, her promised engagement, and the whispers of a world that would never allow them to be together pressed down on her like lead. Ethan, they'll come for us, soon. He stepped closer, his eyes soft but determined, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. Then we face them, together, always. Her lips quivered, the truth of it cutting through her like a blade. The world outside had rules, chains, and expectations, but here, in this stolen moment, they were free. And yet, freedom had never felt so fragile. "I'm scared," she admitted, voice barely audible over the rustle of leaves. "I don't want them to hurt you. I can't bear it." Ethan cupped her face, his thumb brushing over her cheek, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You won't lose me, Aria. Not now, not ever. We'll be careful, but we won't hide." The garden gates creaked faintly. Ethan stiffened, his senses sharpening. Aria followed his gaze and froze. Shadows moved at the edge of the light, a figure tall, imposing, familiar. Her chest tightened. "It's him." The man who had been promised her, the one who represented everything she had tried to obey, stepped forward, eyes dark with certainty and silent command. "Step aside, Ethan. This doesn't concern you." Ethan squared his shoulders, the storm in his chest matching the tension in the air. "It does concern me. She's not yours, and she never will be. Leave now." Aria's heart raced, torn between fear and relief. Fear of the confrontation that could ruin everything. Relief that Ethan stood by her unflinching. "Please, don't do this," she whispered, her fingers clutching his coat. "Not here, not like this." But the tension was a living thing. Words alone could not hold it at bay. The man stepped closer, and with each step, the space between the past and present seemed to collapse. "You think you can defy me? That you can take what's promised? You don't understand what you've interfered with." Ethan's hands curled into fists, his voice quiet but lethal. "I understand, love. And this is real. It's worth every risk." Aria pressed her face to his chest, hiding from the confrontation but drawing courage from his presence. Her lips barely whispered against his coat. "I believe you," the man sneered, a flash of anger crossing his features. "Belief won't save you when consequences arrive. I will see that you pay for this, both of you." Ethan's jaw tightened. His voice broke slightly, but his tone carried an unshakable resolve. "Try, and you'll find out that nothing is stronger than her choice." Rain began to fall softly again, dripping from the leaves and onto the stone pathway. Each drop mirrored the tension, each patter against the ground punctuating the unspoken threats. Arya's fingers intertwined with Ethan's, holding on for balance, for courage, for the fragile hope that they could survive this. "I don't know if I'm brave enough for this," she murmured. "You are," Ethan said, cupping her face. "Because love like ours, it gives courage we never knew we had." The man stepped back, frustration and fury etching deeper into his features, but he didn't retreat entirely. The danger was still present, a shadow over every heartbeat. Hours passed in a tense standoff, the rain soaking their clothes and hair, mingling with the tears Arya could no longer hold back. Every glance, every breath carried the weight of forbidden desire, the ache of impossible choices, and the reckless courage that came from loving someone the world refused to let you have. "I want to fight for us, but I don't know if I can win." "Then we'll fight together," Ethan whispered. "Even if the world is against us, even if it hurts." Their eyes met, and in that gaze was the quiet promise of rebellion, the fragile strength of two hearts refusing to break. "No matter what comes, we choose each other, always." Arya nodded, tears streaking her face, her chest rising and falling with the rhythm of hope and fear intertwined. "Even if it destroys everything else?" "Especially then," Ethan said, pulling her close again, holding her as though they were the only two people in existence. The night deepened, and they moved through the garden, hidden beneath shadows and the soft curtain of rain. Each step was a stolen moment, each heartbeat a defiance of fate itself. The city below roared with life, oblivious to the two souls who dared to carve their own destiny. "Do you think we'll ever be safe?" "Safe, no, but loved. Always. And that is worth every risk." The words hung in the air, fragile and sacred, as they paused by the river, watching the water ripple under the streetlights. The reflection of the night danced on the surface, mirroring their emotions, restless, beautiful, and dangerous. They spoke in hushed tones, planning, whispering, and dreaming. Every word, every glance was a thread weaving them closer together, binding them in something stronger than fear. Each secret plan, each quiet rebellion, was a declaration of love that would not be silenced. "I've never been this scared, or this alive," Arya admitted, her hand pressed to Ethan's chest. "That's what it means to love, Arya, to risk everything for the only thing that matters." Rain fell harder, soaking them to the bone, but neither moved. They were cocooned in each other, their hearts a fortress against the world, The confrontation had not ended. It lingered in every shadow, in every whispered threat, in the tension that racked around their souls. Yet in that danger, there was beauty. In that impossibility, there was truth. Promise me. I promise. Always, no matter what comes. They pressed together once more, hearts beating as one, their bodies trembling with the knowledge that love this forbidden, this dangerous, this pure, was worth every moment of fear and every drop of rain. And as the night stretched on, they held each other tighter, knowing that the world would try to tear them apart, but they would not let it. Not now, not ever. The city lay in a fragile slumber, streets gleaming wet under the lingering drizzle, the quiet hum of distant traffic like a soft heartbeat of the night. Arya stood at the edge of the garden, rain-slick hair clinging to her cheeks, her fingers trembling as they clasped Ethan's hand. Are we really doing this? Ethan's eyes met hers, unwavering and intense, a mixture of determination and tender fear. Yes, tonight we choose ourselves. Tonight we decide that love is stronger than the chains they try to wrap around us. Her breath caught in her throat. Each word felt like a promise and a warning rolled into one. The danger was real, the consequences unthinkable. Yet the pull of their hearts, of their shared moments under moonlight and rain, was irresistible. I'm scared, Ethan. I've never felt fear like this. Then hold on to me. We'll face it together, every step. The plan had been whispered over nights and stolen afternoons, each word a delicate thread connecting two hearts desperate to escape a world that would never understand them. They would leave the city, leave the cages built of family expectation and social obligation, and step into the unknown together. Arya glanced at the river that cut through the city, the water glimmering under the faint moonlight. It would be their path, a way out cloaked in shadows and flowing currents, carrying them away from everything they had been forced to endure. The river. It feels alive tonight, like it's guiding us. It is, and it will take us where we need to go. They moved silently through the hidden paths of the garden, every step measured, careful. Rain pattered softly around them, masking the sound of their footsteps and adding a surreal intimacy to their flight. Each moment was charged with tension, fear, and a deep, almost sacred love. At the water's edge, Ethan helped Arya over the low railing. She shivered, both from the cold and from adrenaline, but he held her firmly, their fingers entwined, as if refusing to let go could somehow protect them from the world's cruelty. I can't believe we're doing this. Believe it. We have to. For us. The river's current beckoned like a silent promise. They lowered themselves carefully into the shallow flow, letting the water embrace them as a shield from eyes and threats above. Each step felt like a heartbeat suspended in time, dangerous, exhilarating, intimate. As they drifted downstream, the city's lights blurred into streaks, creating a tunnel of gold and silver. The sound of water mingled with their hushed breaths, each exhale a mixture of fear, relief, and longing. Arya leaned into Ethan's chest, feeling the steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath her ear, a rhythm that had become her anchor in a storm of uncertainty. Hold me. Don't let go. Never. Not now. Not ever. Her tears mingled with the river, invisible in the dark. Yet she felt them as a release, a surrender to the freedom that awaited them, if only they could reach it. I've dreamed of this, all the stolen moments, all the secret nights. I never thought it could be real. It is, and we're making it real, together. Hours passed as they navigated hidden waterways and abandoned docks. Each turn brought the pulse of danger closer, the chance of discovery, the looming threat of her father's wrath, the man she had been promised to waiting somewhere in the shadows. But each step also strengthened their resolve. Every shared glance, every brush of fingers whispered the truth they could not say aloud. They would not be broken. Do you think we'll make it? We have to. We'll find a place where the world can't touch us, where it's just you and me. The river widened, carrying them into a more open expanse where the city's glow softened and the night felt infinite. Arya tilted her head back, letting the rain soak her face, her hair plastered to her cheeks, and allowed herself a small, liberated laugh. It feels like flying. Then fly with me. They floated side by side, arms entwined, hearts synchronized in a rhythm that defied the threats of the world. Each whisper, each breath, each tremor of fear and longing wove them closer, stitching a tapestry of love built from courage, defiance, and shared dreams. By the time the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon, the city behind them seemed like a distant memory. Their feet touched solid ground at a hidden cove, wet and exhausted, but alive in a way they had never known. Arya collapsed into Ethan's arms, shivering, exhausted, and exhilarated all at once. We made it. We're free. Not just free, together. And that's all that matters. They held each other close, listening to the soft lap of water against the shore, the distant cries of waking birds, the quiet that felt like a blessing. The danger was not gone. It would always follow, but for this moment, they had carved a space in the world that belonged solely to them. I don't want to think about tomorrow. Not yet. Then don't. Tonight is ours, and we'll face tomorrow together. The river shimmered under the morning light, reflecting the soft gold of sunrise and the silver of lingering raindrops. Arya leaned her head against Ethan's shoulder, their fingers intertwined, hearts still racing from the thrill of escape and the intensity of the night. Even if the world never understands, I know this is right, low, certain. It's right because it's ours, and nothing can take that away. They sat there in silence, letting the warmth of each other's presence fill the gaps left by fear and uncertainty. Every heartbeat was a victory, every shared glance a defiance. The city behind them, the storm behind them, they had chosen love, and in that choice, they had found strength, freedom, and the beginning of a life written by their own hearts. I love you, Ethan, even more now, after everything, and I love you, Arya, always. Through every storm, through every shadow, through every impossible thing, always. The sun rose higher, painting the world in hues of gold and pink. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Arya and Ethan allowed themselves to breathe freely, knowing that the path ahead would be difficult, dangerous, and uncertain, but that they would walk it together. And in that moment, in the quiet of a hidden cove, soaked from rain, but alive with possibility, two hearts dared to dream of a life beyond fear, a life beyond. The hidden cove lay silent beneath the early morning sun, waves lapping gently at the shore, carrying a soft melody that contrasted sharply with the storm of emotion still raging within Arya and Ethan. They had escaped the city, but freedom felt fragile, like a delicate glass suspended over a cliff. Arya sat close to Ethan, leaning against his chest, her fingers entwined with his, drawing courage from the steady beat of his heart. Do you think they'll come for us? Ethan tightened his hold around her, his voice calm but edged with concern. They might. But we've planned carefully. We won't let them find us. Not yet. Her eyes searched his, trembling with doubt and longing. I've never felt this vulnerable, and yet, so alive. That's love, Arya. That's the danger and the beauty of it. Every risk carries the heartbeat of hope. They moved quietly through the forest paths surrounding the cove, careful to avoid any trails that might give them away. Each step was deliberate, each rustle of leaves a reminder of the world they had left behind and the shadow that might follow them at any moment. We need to keep moving. The longer we stay, the easier it will be to track us. I know, but we'll rest a little first. We need strength for what's ahead. Arya nodded, leaning closer, allowing herself a fleeting moment of comfort in Ethan's arms. The world could wait. Here, in the quiet embrace of safety, even for a few minutes, they could simply exist. As the day progressed, They found a secluded cabin hidden among the dense trees, a place forgotten by time. Its walls were weathered but sturdy. Its windows offered views of the forest and the river winding silently below. Here at last they could breathe, if only cautiously. This feels like home, for now. Home isn't a place, it's a feeling. And as long as we're together, we're home. Her lips curved into a fragile smile, and for the first time since fleeing, she allowed herself to hope. Then let's make it ours, even for a little while. Night fell, bringing with it the chill of uncertainty. They lit a small fire inside the cabin, its warm glow reflecting in their eyes, illuminating the traces of fear and longing etched on their faces. I can't stop thinking about what's coming, about him, about my father. We can't control them, but we can control us, our choices, and I choose you, always. Aria's heart swelled, tears brimming as she leaned into him. I never thought I'd be brave enough to love like this, to fight like this. You are brave. You've always been brave. You just didn't know it until now. They held each other through the long night, the fire crackling softly, shadows dancing across their faces, mirroring the storm and serenity entwined within them. Morning light filtered through the cabin's windows, revealing a forest washed in gold. Yet even in this temporary sanctuary, danger lingered in their thoughts. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call, reminded them that the world outside still sought to separate them. We need a plan. We can't stay hidden forever. Then we make a plan, one step at a time, one day at a time. Together, they mapped their escape, tracing routes along rivers and hidden trails, whispering strategies and contingencies. Each word was laden with tension, each glance heavy with unspoken love and fear. By dusk, they had ventured to a higher cliff overlooking the river valley, watching the sunset bleed colors across the horizon. The beauty of it stole their breath, yet a shadow lingered in every corner of their minds. It's beautiful, but I can't stop thinking about the past, about what we left behind. We carry it with us in small pieces, but we don't let it define us. We are more than the chains they try to wrap around us. Aria pressed her forehead to his shoulder, letting herself be grounded by his presence, the warmth of his body a shield against the cold of uncertainty. Promise me, no matter what happens, we'll always find a way back to each other. I promise. Through every shadow, every storm, every impossible thing, always you and me. Night deepened, and the forest became alive with sounds that made their hearts race. Distant footsteps, rustling leaves, the snap of a branch. Ethan's eyes scanned the darkness, every nerve alert. Stay close. No matter what, we stay together. Arya clutched his arm, heart pounding, her breath shallow but steady against his chest. I'm not afraid. Not while you're here. Then we face it. Whatever comes, together. The hours stretched like eternity, each moment a delicate balance between hope and fear. They slept lightly, half awake, listening for threats, holding each other as if the warmth of their bodies could ward off the world. By the next morning they had ventured further, exploring hidden paths that led to small villages and abandoned roads. Each encounter with the outside world was tense, every glance from strangers a potential danger. Yet in these trials their love deepened, forged in fire and secrecy. I never imagined the world could feel so vast and so dangerous. It's dangerous because it's real, and we're alive in it, together. They laughed quietly, a shared sound that felt rebellious, a defiance of everything trying to keep them apart. And though fear lingered like a shadow, it could not touch the bond they had built in whispered promises, stolen kisses, and endless nights under the moon. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of crimson and violet, Arya and Ethan found a secluded cliff overlooking the river's bend. They sat close, holding hands, hearts racing from exhaustion and exhilaration. We made it this far, and yet I feel like the danger is just beginning. Then we face it, together. No one can take this from us unless we allow it. Arya leaned into him, tears slipping freely now, mingling with the wind and the river's song. I love you, even more now than before, even with fear, with everything. I love you. And I love you, always, through every shadow, every storm, always us. The night embraced them, a quiet witness to their defiance, their courage, and the fragile, unbreakable truth of their love. And as stars shimmered overhead, two hearts beat in tandem, daring to dream of a life built entirely on love, courage, and hope, even when the world sought to tear them apart. Expectation retelling in a life built entirely on the fragile, beautiful truth of their love. The forest, once a sanctuary of whispered freedom and stolen moments, had grown ominously silent. Even the soft murmur of the river seemed to pause, as if holding its breath in anticipation of the storm that followed them. Arya clutched Ethan's hand tighter, feeling the tremor in his grip that mirrored her own. Something's wrong. I can feel it. Stay close. Don't speak too loud. We can't be seen. Her heart raced, a frantic rhythm against the steady thrum of his chest. Every shadow seemed alive, every rustle of leaves a herald of danger approaching. They found us, I knew it would happen. Then we face it together, always. 3 cloaked shapes moved deliberately, silent and relentless. Arya's breath caught. She pressed herself into Ethan, the warmth of his body grounding her in the chaos of fear. Ethan, they're here. Stay behind me. No one touches you. Not while I'm here. The tallest figure stepped forward, her promised suitor, his eyes hard and unyielding. You cannot run forever, Arya. And him, he nodded to Ethan. He will pay for interfering. Ethan's jaw tightened, his voice a low growl that carried both defiance and protection. She belongs to herself, and I will not let anyone take her. Not you, not anyone. Arya's fingers intertwined with his, drawing courage from his unwavering presence. Please don't let them hurt you. I can't bear it. I won't let them. We survived together. Always. The forest became a tense battlefield of shadows. Every snap of a branch, every rustle of leaves seemed amplified, echoing through their chests. Arya and Ethan moved with precision, evading grasping hands and calculating every footstep as if life and love depended on it. Because they did. I can't believe they caught up so quickly. I thought we'd have more time. We are stronger than they know, and together we are unstoppable. They ducked behind fallen trees and pressed into dense underbrush, hearts pounding, the intimacy of survival tightening the bond between them. I'm so scared, but I don't want to let go of you. Then don't. Hold on. We fight for us, for every heartbeat we share. Hours passed in the blur of careful evasion, whispered plans, and stolen glances. They navigated streams, scaled rocks, and crept along narrow forest paths, the ever-present threats sharpening their senses and intensifying their closeness. I never imagined love could feel like this. Terrifying, yet so real. It's worth every risk, worth every danger, worth every moment with you. Arya leaned into him, tears mixing with the rain and sweat, her heart swelling with an intensity she had never known. I love you more than I can even say. And I love you always. Through storms, shadows, and impossible things. Always us. Night fell fully, and they found shelter beneath a rocky overhang, exhausted but unbroken. The rain fell softly, masking their presence as they huddled together, a fragile fortress of warmth and defiance. I never thought I'd survive all of this. And yet, here we are. Because we survived together. Because love like ours is worth everything. They slept lightly, their bodies intertwined, every dream haunted by fear, but softened by hope. Each rustle outside, each distant sound, reminded them that danger was near, but could not touch what they shared. Morning brought renewed tension. They could not linger. Their pursuers were relentless. Yet the love between them had become an unbreakable bond, forged in danger and secrecy, strengthened by every whispered promise and stolen kiss. We move carefully, together, always, no matter what comes. Through dense forest and hidden trails they advanced, every glance, every touch, every word reinforcing the bond that kept them alive and unbroken. By dusk, they reached a secluded valley, a haven untouched by the world. Trees arched overhead, the river's song flowing like a gentle lullaby. For a fleeting moment, they allowed themselves to breathe, hearts still racing, bodies pressed together in exhausted relief. It's beautiful and quiet for now. Low tender, then rest here, gather strength. Tomorrow we continue together. Arya pressed her head against his shoulder, tears of relief and lingering fear mingling freely. Love feels terrifying, yet exhilarating. It's worth every fear, every shadow, every impossible moment. Worth us. Under the stars, they held hands, hearts beating in unison. Every danger they had faced, every shadow they had escaped, had only strengthened their love. And though the world would continue to challenge them, one truth remained. We belong to each other, always, no matter what comes. The night embraced them, a quiet witness to their defiance, courage, and fragile, unbreakable love. And as the stars shimmered overhead, two hearts dared to dream again, of love surviving storms, shadows, and impossibilities, because together they were unstoppable. The valley stretched wide beneath the moonlight, serene yet deceptive. Its quietness pressed against Arya and Ethan's hearts, a fragile calm before the storm. Every rustle of leaves, every distant ripple of the river reminded them of the danger still lingering, persistent and patient. Ethan, I feel it. They're close. I can feel it in the air. Then we act first. We control this night. We can't wait for them to strike. Tonight, we take control together. Arya's heart pounded, a mix of fear and exhilaration, each beat syncing with the thrum of Ethan's own pulse. His hand in hers was warm, grounding, giving her courage even when her mind screamed with doubt. I've never done anything like this. What if I fail? You won't fail. You've never been alone. Every step, every breath, every heartbeat, we share them all. We fight together. They move through the forest like shadows themselves, silent and deliberate. Every movement was careful, every glance a lifeline, each step laden with tension, yet with the intimacy that only comes from complete trust. It feels like the forest itself is holding its breath, waiting for us to slip. Then we move as one. Let fear guide us without controlling us. We survive, and we survive together. The cool night air filled their lungs, sharpening their senses. Every snap of a twig, every distant call of a bird made Arya cling closer to Ethan, the warmth of his body against hers a shield against a relentless uncertainty. Even in this fear, I feel alive with you. That's love, Arya. Real love. Dangerous, thrilling, terrifying, but worth every heartbeat. Their plan unfolded near the abandoned bridge they had scouted days ago. It was their stage, their trap, a place where the hunters would be deceived. Ethan glanced at Arya, eyes soft yet fierce, conveying trust, determination, and an unspoken promise of protection. What if it doesn't work? Then we improvise, together. Every step, every choice, we make it ours. No one can take us from each other. Arya felt tears prick her eyes, not from fear alone, but from the intensity of emotion, the trust, the love that had grown stronger under every shadow and every threat. I don't want to lose you. I couldn't survive that. And you won't. Not now, not ever. We belong to each other, always. The pursuers arrived, cautious and unaware of the trap awaiting them. Ethan signaled subtly, and with precision, they triggered the decoy, a cascade of stones echoing through the valley, drawing the hunters into a false path. Now, move! Stay close, don't let go. Every step, every breath, together. Arya's fingers tightened around his as they dashed through the shadows, hearts racing, adrenaline mingling with love, fear, and the thrill of survival. Every brush of hands, every glance exchanged carried weight, emotion, and unspoken promises. This is madness, and yet I've never felt so alive. Because we face it together. Every danger, every storm, it makes us stronger, makes us us. Hours blurred into one another as they used terrain shadows and the river's curves to mislead their pursuers. Every step required courage, intuition, and a shared heartbeat guiding their actions. The intensity of fear made their connection more intimate, more profound, soft, anxious, trembling. I can't believe we're still surviving, still together. Low, steady, loving. Because nothing can break us. Not them, not the night, not the impossible. We fight, we run, we love. Together. They paused briefly, pressed against each other under a rocky overhang. Rain soaking them, yet somehow washing away the tension, fear, and exhaustion, leaving only warmth and closeness. Soft, intimate, whispering. Even in fear, I feel your heart next to mine, and I'm safe. Gentle, tender, unwavering. And you always will be. Through every storm, shadow, or impossible path. Together. By dawn, the pursuers had been thoroughly misled, trapped in confusion. Ethan and Arya emerged atop a secluded cliff, looking down at the river winding silver through the valley. Exhaustion, relief, and exhilaration mingled in every trembling breath. Soft, awed, broken. We did it. We actually did it. I thought we wouldn't make it. Low, proud, tender. Because we have each other, and that's all that matters. Always. Arya leaned into him, tears falling freely, the rain mixing with them, each drop a release of tension, fear, and gratitude. Soft, intimate, trembling. I love you, more than I ever thought possible. Every danger, every shadow, it only makes it deeper. Gentle, firm, unwavering. And I love you, always. Through storms, shadows, every impossible thing. Always us. Morning light broke across the valley, gold spilling over the trees and river. For a fleeting moment, peace wrapped around them. Exhausted bodies pressed together, hearts still racing, yet filled with quiet triumph. Even if the world hates us, even if danger never ends, I know one thing. What is that? I belong to you, and you to me. Always. Always us, no matter what comes next. The cliff embraced them under the dawn, a witness to love forged in moonlight, shadows, and whispered promises. Two hearts dared to dream, unbroken and unstoppable. The night held its breath, as though even the wind dared not disturb what had been hidden away for so long. Behind the crumbling walls of the forgotten glass house, Arya and Ethan finally found a fragment of peace. The city outside still roared with search parties, whispers of danger and chains rattling in the dark. But here, it was only moonlight and the sound of their beating hearts. The glass ceiling above them was cracked, jagged like an old scar, but it allowed silver light to spill into the chamber. Wild ivy crawled across beams, roses grew untamed along shattered tiles, and the old marble fountain, long broken, was filled with rainwater that reflected the stars like a secret sky trapped inside stone. It feels like the world forgot this place, Arya murmured, her fingers brushing moss-covered stone. Her voice trembled with wonder, fragile and soft, as though afraid she might break the spell by speaking too loud. Good, Ethan answered, stepping closer, his boots crunching against falling glass. Then it belongs to us now. For a while, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't empty, it was alive, filled with the weight of everything unsaid. The way her breathing slowed when he stood near, the way his chest ached, full of words he couldn't shape. Arya's eyes followed the moonlight pooling across the fountain. Ethan, do you ever wonder if this is all we'll have? Hidden places, borrowed hours, a love we can only whisper about. Her words pierced him deeper than any blade. He wanted to promise forever, to swear he'd tear down kingdoms and rewrite stars if it meant she could walk in the open beside him. But the truth clung to him, heavy as chains. His voice cracked, low and trembling, Then I'll spend every stolen hour making it worth eternity. She turned, her lips parting in surprise at the rawness of his voice. And then, slowly, carefully, she leaned her forehead to his. Their breaths mingled, uneven, fragile. He closed his eyes, afraid if he looked too long, he'd see the future they couldn't have. Her fingers brushed against his hand, hesitant at first, then stronger, lacing through his. His calloused skin against hers was like flame and silk colliding. The silence thickened again, but this time it was sacred. Outside, the city lived on. Soldiers searched. The sound of iron gates clanged in the distance. The shadows stretched, reminding them that danger had not forgotten them, not even for one heartbeat. Ethan pulled away just enough to glance toward the broken archway. His jaw tightened. They'll find us, sooner or later. Arya didn't flinch. Instead, she squeezed his hand tighter. Her voice was soft but fierce, trembling yet unshakable. Then we won't wait for them. We'll find our own way out. We'll write our escape before they write our end. Something in her words lit a fire inside him, stronger than fear. For months, she had been his reason to run, but now she was his reason to fight. The moonlight bent across the glass house, turning broken shards into silver flames. For the first time in days, Ethan didn't see ruins. He saw possibility. Hours slipped by, measured only by the sway of shadows. They sat by the fountain, their backs against stone, shoulders brushing. Every small touch sent sparks through Ethan's veins, though he tried to bury them beneath restraint. Arya leaned her head back, watching the fractured ceiling. "It's strange," she whispered. "I feel safer here, in this broken place, with you, than I ever did inside walls meant to protect me." Soft chuckle laced with sorrow, Ethan lowered his gaze. Maybe walls don't protect. Maybe they just cage us. Her breath caught. "And you?" He turned, his eyes catching hers, a storm and a flame all at once. "I was born in a cage. But you," short pause, voice softening, "you showed me there was sky above it." Her eyes glistened. For a heartbeat, she forgot the danger, forgot the world waiting beyond. She only knew the warmth of his voice, the honesty trembling in it, and the unspoken vow hidden beneath. She reached for his hand again, not hesitant this time, but certain. "Then, let's find that sky together." Later, as dawn crept nearer, the stillness began to fray. A sound outside, the creak of old gates, the rustle of footsteps too heavy to belong to the wind. Arya froze, her heart hammering against her chest. Ethan rose to his feet in one swift motion, pulling her with him. His eyes swept the glass house, searching for exits, shadows, anything that could save them. "They're here." Arya's breath shuddered, fear flashing across her face. But even then, she didn't let go of his hand. The ivy-covered door rattled, voices, muffled but clear, echoed in the distance. Soldiers. Ethan pulled her close, his voice low, burning with resolve. Stay behind me. No, she whispered fiercely, her eyes sharp despite the fear. I'll stay with you. The difference between the two was everything. Time slowed. Every sound sharpened, the scrape of metal, the thud of boots, the breath of the night itself. The sanctuary they'd claimed was about to collapse. But as the first shadows passed over the glasshouse floor, Ethan looked at her, and something shifted inside him. Even if the world shattered, even if the city swallowed them whole, this moment was theirs, and that was something no chain could take. Aria, if this ends tonight, know I'd choose you every time, in every life. Her eyes filled, tears catching the moonlight. She stepped closer, her hand rising to his cheek, trembling but sure. And I'd choose you, even if it breaks me. The door burst open. Moonlight fractured across steel and shadow. And yet, in the heart of the broken glass house, they stood side by side, hands entwined, ready to face whatever came. The soldiers' footsteps thundered like a storm through the ruins, breaking the fragile stillness of the glass house. Their torches flickered against ivy-covered stone, spilling jagged shadows across the broken floor. Stay close, Ethan whispered, his arm wrapping around Aria's shoulders, shielding her even before the first blades glinted in the light. Aria's chest rose and fell, fear tightening her breath. But her hand clung to his, as though it was the only truth left in the world. I'm not afraid, Ethan. Not with you. The door gave way with a groan. Iron slammed against stone. A dozen armed men poured inside. For a heartbeat, time froze. Moonlight shattered across glass. The scent of roses lingered in the air, and in the middle of the storm, two figures stood, their fingers entwined, unshaken. Ethan's voice carried through the glass house. You'll have to go through me. The first soldier lunged. Steel clashed, sparks flying in the silver light. Ethan moved like fire, raw, unstoppable, his blade a blur. Each strike was desperation and devotion, each step a vow to keep her alive. Aria's breath caught with every movement. Fear clawed at her, but so did awe. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for them. But there were too many. The weight of iron closed in, the circle tightening. Ethan! He gritted his teeth, blood glinting on his cheek. Don't look at them. Look at me. Her eyes locked onto his, storm meeting flame. For a moment, the chaos blurred. All she could see was him. And then he staggered. A blade grazed his shoulder, tearing crimson into his shirt. No! Aria cried, breaking free from the wall where he had shielded her. Without thought, she darted forward, grabbing a fallen star from the floor. Her hands trembled, but her resolve was iron. She struck, not with skill, but with courage. Her blow knocked a soldier back, just enough for Ethan to rise again. For a fleeting instant their eyes met, surprise and pride flooding his face. "You're full of fire, Arya," tears welled in her eyes. "You're not fighting alone, not anymore." The battle surged like a storm. Blades rang, shadows twisted. Ethan and Arya moved together, not perfect, not practiced, but united. Every time he faltered, she was there. Every time she stumbled, his hand steadied her. But with each passing moment, the soldiers pressed harder. The sanctuary was breaking. Finally, with a last desperate strike, Ethan sent the leader crashing against the fountain. Silence trembled in the air, broken only by their ragged breaths. The soldiers, stunned and bloodied, withdrew into the night. The broken door swung in the wind, creaking like the sigh of the earth itself. For a moment, the glass house was theirs again, but Ethan collapsed to his knees. His wounds bled freely now, staining the moss beneath. "No, no, Ethan!" Arya dropped beside him, her hands frantic against his chest, trying to stop the bleeding. Her tears fell fast, hot against his skin. "Stay with me, please. I can't." His hand rose weakly, brushing her cheek with trembling fingers. "Shh. You're stronger than you think, Arya." Her sobs broke into the night. "Not without you. Don't you dare leave me." He smiled, faint but full of love. "I've been running my whole life, but the moment I found you, I wasn't running anymore. You were my home." Her forehead pressed against his, tears slipping onto his lips. "Then stay. Stay in that home, with me." His eyes fluttered. For a terrifying heartbeat, she thought she'd lost him. But then he whispered, "Then help me find the sky, the one you promised." Arya's heart clenched. She nodded through her tears, fierce and unbreakable. "We'll find it together. Do you hear me? Together." The night stretched endlessly as she tended his wounds, binding cloth with shaking hands, whispering every prayer her heart could remember. Hours slipped into dawn, and with the first light of sunrise, his breathing steadied. He lived. The war wasn't won. The city still hunted them. But in that fragile dawn, inside a glass house blooming with wild roses and broken dreams, they had something greater than freedom. They had each other. Days later, they left the ruins behind. Hand in hand, they walked through forests, across rivers, always searching for the horizon that promised more than chains. Every step was uncertain, but every glance between them was certain enough. Sometimes, love is not about palaces or crowns. Sometimes it's about stolen moments beneath broken glass ceilings, about whispered vows in the dark. about two souls who choose each other over and over, even when the world stands against them. And so, Ethan and Aria became wanderers of the night, not fugitives, not prisoners, but dreamers beneath the stars. Their story didn't end in ruins. It began there, because some loves are not meant to be hidden. They are meant to burn, to light the darkest skies, to outlive the cages of men. And theirs would, forever. And so, their story faded into the stars, two souls finding home in each other, even when the world stood against them. Close your eyes now, dear dreamer. Let your heart rest and drift into sleep. Good night. Sweet dreams.